All right, guys, we're at the closing meeting at the end of the San Francisco Summit, and one at a time. Here we go.
Hey, I'm David. Boy, we're up here at the up
Marin
on
Headlands?
Marin, up past just past the Golden Gate. It was a terrific walk. We've been walking all day. But anyways, so what did I learn at the summit? Well, I before I came here, I've been single for about 3 years, and trying to keep it that way. So I've been divorced, raped, gone through that entire experience, ugly, brutal. That's kind of what red pilled me in the first place, but learned that lesson and learning it very well. Red pill doesn't necessarily just mean with women, though. Sometimes it can be life. Once the COVID, I had a great job working, making over $100,000 a year, which for me was good. The areas that I was living was good. Once COVID hit, and then for me, a circumstance happened that for me was unacceptable related to COVID, and I ended up losing my job through no ethical lapse or through no lapse with my ability to work, what I did. But we'll just say I lost my job due to a COVID situation. So, here I was without a job, single, living on my own. My entire life had just gone fucking to shit. And I'm like, how the hell did this happen to me? And and so here I am, pretty much, I rock bottom in a sense, and I'm thinking I have got to change my life. And so I'd been listening to Ronin on his podcast. I'd always wanted to attend a summit, and I'm like, you know what? There's this guy who holds these summits, and this is the guy that really never says you're at rock bottom. His message is freedom. His message is hope. His message has always been, go and get it without worrying about failure or whatever. And so I took a chance. I'm like, no, I don't want to go because I'm afraid, there's new people, there's this, there's that, whatever the hell reason. I came up with a million. But I'm like, no, you know what? If you remain in that kind of thinking, David, you're never going to be able to grow. You're just going to stay. You're going to be miserable and you'll never grow. And so I said, hey, Ronin, I'm coming to your summit. And so I did.
I don't even care.
And so
Well, yeah.
there's a great group of guys that were here, and we went for walks every friggin' day. It's like, oh my God, I probably walked, it feels like I walked 10 miles today. And so I learned from listening to everybody. What I realized is that most people here are struggling like I am, not in the same way, but they're all going through battles, and everybody has had, a lot of crap that they've had to deal with. And I'm like, holy cow, you know what? I didn't know at first that if I would belong, but I'm like, no, these people are just like me. They're all had a bunch of crap to deal with, and they're trying to figure out a way to handle their own situation. And I realized in time that, I am exactly where I need to be with exactly the kind of people that I need to be with. Folks who have gone through a lot of crap and learning some lessons and have decided to go a different way and to be free and to overcome their obstacles. And so today we started out, and I'm a guy I'm very hesitant. I like to plan things, and I don't like to do things that are unknown, and that's just kind of the nature of who I was, right? And then the walk happened, and I'm like, Ronin is like, okay, we're gonna go for a walk, and I'm like, okay, so we all set out, and then we go to this place. It's like, okay, it's gonna be a mile or something like that, and then we get there, and then Ronin's like, I really want to go here. It's like, I'm like thinking, where's this guy's plan? Stop. Hey, wait a minute. Because it's not that I can't walk. It's that I had such issues that I was so afraid of going and venturing into something that it was unknown, that it just kind of like put this fear into me. And I'm like, okay, fine. Just that's what he wants to do. We'll just trust the guy. He's done this before. Like, what are you afraid of? And so I'm like, okay, fine. So I go walk with them. So we walk, a couple more miles. And then he's like, hey, you know what? I really want to go here. It's like, dude, that's like 5 miles down the road. What are you talking about? But we did it. And so at some point I just said, you know what? Fine. I give up. Let's just, wherever the hell you want to go, I'm going to go. And I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'm just going to, you've got a vision of where you want to go. You don't care what the obstacles are. You're going to get there. And I realized that's why I'm here. That's the lesson for me.
You gotta be spontaneous. You gotta be a little childlike.
Just find your goal. Have a great group of friends that believe in you and that are like-minded, and do it. And that is my lesson for the summit. And you believe me, when I come again, my people are going to see some change. That's all.
Fuck yeah. Holy shit. Hand it to somebody else. Who's next? Go. Yeah.
I'll be short and sweet. I think for me, the objective was to become part of a broader community of like-minded people, and I think I've accomplished that. I think the next few months for me are going to be difficult emotionally, and it's going to be good to report back afterward that I've succeeded in my objectives there. So in the meantime, we'll probably have some communication. A lot of times what you learn by doing, and so it's always good to revisit Ronin's videos just as you hit another milestone in life, and you kind of like opens up your eyes into a different fashion, and there's more to learn there that you just weren't ready to learn previously. And I think I'm going to go through that in the next few months too. So look forward to it, and I thank you guys all for in advance for helping me on that journey.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was just about meeting in person some of the people that you see online and connect with them. Obviously much better in person, and just kind of reevaluate where I'm at. And I'm definitely on the right path, and meet some great people along the way. And yeah, wow, it seems like we just got together yesterday, but we've come so far. And so anyway.
Where are you going next? You going to Cabo or where?
I think so for now, but the eventual plan is Bali or Japan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, once you get back to Japan, do you stay there for a while?
So there are a lot of lessons learned, a lot of great conversations, really interesting experiences. Today it was especially like when you think you can't do any more, just push yourself a little and you'll be surprised, But outside of that, like I would say, like from all the conversations I've had with the people here, like it's kind of like a different topic actually, but you can really see the effects of trauma on people and like how it informs your life and your relationships. And groups like these are a great way to unleash those traumas and go back into the world refreshed, more clear, because you've see that other people had a similar situation, and that it's okay and you can release it in yourself. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that in the people here. And I'm looking forward to seeing how people grow after this. I also learned how to weightlift, which was pretty awesome. I didn't know I had some strength in my hips, and they happened to be there from God knows where. Yeah. But yeah, overall, it's about freedom from our traumas, freedom from our past, and freedom to take the journey that you want to take, and knowing that you can go further than you thought you could. So yeah.
Let's see. I think one of the things that has been valuable to me at both summits I've been to now is the leadership, being around Paul's a great leader, and I saw a saying somewhere once. It was like the best leaders help other people become leaders. And that's really cool because I think that's what Paul does well. Is the idea isn't for him to be the leader and then everybody else has to follow. The idea is he creates leaders and helps other people become better leaders around him. And I admire that because there's like a selflessness to that. There's not an ego to it. And I think that it's not like, oh, I learned this and that and like little specific things. It's just the process of leading yourself and seeing others lead is super valuable, and being around that is super valuable. Because I know for me, I always want to be a better leader, the best leader I can be for myself and people around me. And I think the world is devoid of that in many ways, and it's really something that the world needs. So it's just super cool to see people improving themselves, being around good leadership. Like Sean, for example. I don't know how you were like at your first, before I met you, but just even in the short time, I've seen you grow so much and leading yourself better and thus leading others better. And that's really cool to see. So I think that for me, the changes are not super specific, it's like, oh, and now I learned how to solve, quadratic equations. It's more like you just are slowly getting better in the way you lead.
I am always surprised by how much I can learn in 3 days of just hanging out with you guys. It's always amazing to me because there's never a point where you're being taught something or where it's explicit, but just somehow, I remember from the very first summit, somehow I learned a bunch of stuff and I said, wait a minute, I didn't even feel like we talked about that. Or I didn't even feel like we really did a whole, we didn't sit down, like a therapist would and just go over something for 24 hours straight or something like that. But somehow I always learn a lot, way more than I do in my regular life. Maybe like months. It's months and months boiled down into a few days. I still don't know how it happens. I think about it a lot and I still don't know. So I don't know. But at this summit, I knew I was putting the pieces together, but something about saying it to people that I know are receptive to it and are listening, and people whose opinions I respect and something about it made it concrete in my mind that I do have established things in my life and that I'm not ready yet to make, crazy decisions, but that I am prepared, right? All that stuff is in order. I do have the capacity, especially from you two, that I do have the capacity to take off. And I'll have to think a lot about that. So that was really cool. Thank you.
Hey, this is Alex. It's definitely been a very interesting, it's a completely different experience on this summit for sure. Each summit is different, but this one's very different in the sense that it was in my own backyard. So I would say the other summits, it was very much felt like I was the one completely coming there to get something, and this one, it had a very much different flavor of, I was still getting things out of it, but I was kind of shifting more into wanting to give something, try to do everything to assist, to make sure everyone else had a great time and it had a powerful experience, because I know how powerful experience I had when I just showed up and I don't know where anything is. I'm not familiar with anything there, and so this time I was much, very much wanting to shift more into, a host kind of state. And I think feeling before, it was I'm always feeling that I'm behind, behind or the not knowing things and being the one that's still like kind of immature and not maturing level yet. And this time I feel like I'm finally kind of shifting into that feeling maturing state. And there was definitely a few key conversations where key things that were said that were like more little. It felt for me, this one, it was a lot more like little tweaks. Felt like I got a few major breakthroughs already. And on this one, for me, it was like a lot of little minor fine-tuning adjustments that I was like, oh, that one little 1 degree, 2 degree adjustments that I'm looking out at the long-term trajectory of my life moving forward, even though it's relatively seemingly subtle now, I could see long-term, it'll definitely put me on a different path. Even things like, like Ronin said the other night, like, just realize that, family are basically strangers, you just happen to be born in that family, you didn't pick them. And you'd be okay with just that you don't actually have to follow their path. You don't actually have to always get their blessings on stuff, and just to be okay with that. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it like that. And that was a very freeing statement for me, And there was a few other things I can't think off the top of my head at the moment, but little things like that little adjustment, that one little shift in perspective. And I do a lot of sailing, and like sailing, where it's just like 1 degree change. Now, like, you'd be in a completely different place in a couple hours, just on a one or 2 degree change in your trajectory, So that's what it was feeling like for me, that I was finally, and then, like I said, just finally shifting from feeling like I'm totally the one that, dude, I'm totally lost. I'm totally lost and confused, and everything is shit, and my, I've been destroyed in all these ways, and I'm just trying to pick up the pieces, I feel like I finally have kind of shifted out of that state, and I feel myself like finally getting my head above water again, I finally I see the horizon. I can see something out there. I'm not just in darkness anymore, and I think that was very much more in a place of more in the darkness place in the previous 2 summits. Where now I finally feel, it's like, okay, I got it. I finally got settled with a cool place, and, and I definitely wanted to share that. So I was definitely much more in a state of sharing and wanting to help contribute to other guys having breakthrough experiences, and like breakthrough experiences in their own, finding some new level of freedom that they didn't know they had before. Or new possibilities, new ways of looking at things that, it's like when you think things are just, this is the only way it can be, and there's no other option. And then you're with a group of guys like this, they show you a new way, you never thought before, and I like also being able to, hopefully contribute ways like that too. She's like, hey, have you considered this? Like, here's some other thing I did, and I don't know anyone else has tried this before, but it worked for me at least. And, you may consider trying it too. And they're like, oh shit, okay, and maybe not, most of them might not take it, but sometimes it just takes, just at least one guy changes something, and then all of a sudden, like I say, sometimes years later, just one little quick conversation, years later, they come back to you like, dude, you saved my life just because of that one thing you told me all those years ago, that kind of thing. So I definitely I feel like that's part of what's powerful about doing these summit events, is like, sometimes, there's different conversations that occur, but many times it comes down to just one short snippet of a conversation that suddenly just, it's like hit the combination just right and unlocked something. And then you take that back with you to the rest of your, life, and then, you're not the same again. So that's definitely what this is for me. So, all right, that's, so I really appreciate it, man. All right, who's next?
No? Okay. I think everybody's here.
You want to say one? Or you want?
I'm good.
Oh yeah, one final.
Yeah.
Hey, this is David again. I was talking about this long ass walk that Ronin wanted to take us all on, and he had this goal in mind of where he wanted to go, And I just had to follow along and say, okay, and no obstacles. And it's 4 something in the afternoon, and I think we got about 5, 6, 7 miles to walk back. And I just wanted everybody to know that we've got on top of everything else. Right. So we're like halfway through our journey, and I am so cool with that. So.
Oh, it's great here. It's really cool to hear everybody sharing, and just to, see the changes, I was just listening to,
420.
It's a little slow.
yeah, 420. Oh, okay.
420.
It was sent for edible.
All right.
Except for edible.
But I was just thinking, like,
Hey, there's a weed right there.
whenever you were sharing, I was just thinking, like especially when you shared, like, I remembered, all of a sudden I just flashed back to when, Alex was at one of the first summits, and it was such a different vibe about you. It's hard to explain. Like, I don't know if anybody was at those ones, but
Luke was there.
yeah, it was a very different vibe. It was like always, I don't want to say words, because when you change and you move on, it doesn't really matter what it was.
What's one word that you would use to describe it?
Always, what was the word? You said lost, right?
Yeah.
There was that, but it wasn't kind of admission of being lost. It was just
Oh, in denial
Like-
of being lost.
like being busy to cover up being lost, So like just chattering endlessly and not having really any. It was just like, I need to talk. I'm just going to talk, and then time's going to be done, and I'll be done with this. I'll be finished. I'll be, and I could see through it, right? But I couldn't. Everybody has to come to their point, right? And it was like really cool to see you now, and I realized you're very confident now. You've totally changed, actually, and then that's like amazing, because I guess that confidence is not easy to get. You know what I mean? Because the confidence comes from solving problems. That's the thing. That's one of my understandings of life. Is people will say, like when I was going through my court case, right? I was having a hard time, and then somebody I knew said, "Hey, if you need like counseling or something to get through this, and I was like, I don't what I need is to get through this. I need, like help. You know what I mean? Like if I solve the problem, my mental state comes along. You know what I mean? Like a lot of it is just solving fucking problems. People get all this therapy and stuff because they don't want to solve problems. It's like how to live with the fact that you're fat as fuck or something, It's hard, right? You know what I mean? It's better just to get in shape. It's the easier way, actually. Is to face the things and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want this anymore, Instead of how am I going to live with the fact that this is here? It's like, no, I'm just going to change it. I think a lot of people today, that's what they're doing. Like if you just next time you're listening to someone talk about fixing something, just look at them and think, could they actually fix that instead of accept it? Because it's often you can just fix it. There's no deep problem. It's just like, you know what I mean? Just fix it. If you want more houses, just get them. Just go get them and Airbnb it, make a bunch of money, and then you won't have to worry about feeling insecure about it. Or whatever it is, whatever the feeling. I don't know if that's just a random example, but like whatever it is that you need to do, just go. I can do it. And I think people just take life way too complicated, because I know for myself, if I solve a problem, as soon as so in other words, like when this is a very deep thing for me. Like, for example, if I can't sleep, people will get a sleeping pill, right? Or something, or do something to sleep. And I don't do that because I'll just say, okay, I trust myself. I'm not sleeping. So that means I'm dealing with something. So I don't know what it is yet, but I got to figure it out, right? In that situation. So I'll just wait until I see what it is, and then I'll grind through the fucking thing, and I'll get rid of it, and then I'll sleep like a baby. So that's the way I always do it with my problems. I just don't do the thing that avoids it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to die from not sleeping, right? And I just think I have something. I trust myself, basically, that I'm going to figure it out, B, that I can solve it. Because it is. Life is not that complicated, So it's just a matter of that somebody else has a solution. Somebody else has done it before, right? There's somebody that has a similar mindset as me. You know what I mean? Like, not just done it, but they've done it in a way that, you know, would make me happy, you know. And I just have to keep looking for that. Like, what is the way to do this one, you know, with this amount of money or this amount of time, or, you know, being able to spend much time doing the things I want to do that I'm doing now, you know, because there's often the solution is like drop everything and focus. No, I got to fix it. I gotta basically build the bridge while I'm driving. You know, I'm just driving and I'm putting down the sticks, you know, bolting it in as I'm going across the bridge, right? You know, so that's the way I you know, because I'm still gonna keep doing all the things I'm gonna do, right? And then also I'm gonna build that thing that I you know, that I need to build, right, or whatever, you know, fix that thing that I need to fix, right? So, because otherwise, if you give up the things you're doing for this problem, often what I found is that when I watch people do this, is that they give up a bunch of things they care about to do something that they really don't care that much about, actually. It's just for some reason is like an ointment, and fly in the ointment is bothering them, right? And they really don't give a shit that much. And then they, you know what I mean? And like, it just takes them off their whole track, and then they get really confused. And then, you know, they get off, you know, maybe they gain a bunch of weight and they get depressed. And then it gets to the point where you can't fix it, right? So I think it's like a super serious thing I'm saying, because you got to fix it because you're going to have more problems later. So there's no fucking time. You know, you just have to go do it, face it, just get it done. Wait till you figure it out, do it, grind through it, get it done, and then go on, because we don't have time. We only have like 80 years or whatever. And you only have so much time in each period, right? So I think that's my method of problem solving in those situations. And I saw you do that. You know, you continued growing, you know, and at the same time you somehow fixed all that stuff, right? And it reminds me of Gabe so much, because when I first met Gabe, he would just chatter. Like, he just, like, anything that he said, he would laugh at. But it wasn't funny at all. He'd just be like, he'd just say something and they'd be like, ha, ha, ha. And then it was driving me insane. And we were sitting by the pool in Bangkok, and I said, you know, like, stop fucking laughing at things that aren't funny, you know, and don't yawn when you're not yawning, you know. And he was like totally taken aback, and I was like, yeah, just tell me this fucking story. What's the story? What are you trying to work on? Because he was actually working on something super serious, actually. So I knew that it was a serious thing. I had to kind of get him to kind of, and he was like, well, that's the way guys my age, you know. And I was like, no, that's the way you do it. You know, you're doing it now, but it's not helping you. It's not helping you solve it, right? And like, he fucking solved it like that. I've never heard him do it since. That was probably 4 years ago, right? You know, so it was like, you know, he solved it. And so it reminds me, there was this nervousness or this kind of laughing at things that weren't funny. And it was like, I remember when I was 19, working at the stereo store, somebody told me that. And Moshe, my boss, this guy from Israel, he said, stop laughing, not funny. You're nervous. You're nervous. And I was like, nervous? Fuck. You know, that's all it was, you know. And so, you know, that was a good lesson for me, because that's a childish thing, and I didn't want to do that. You know, I was becoming a man, right? It was time to kind of reevaluate those things that I do without thinking, right? So, you know what I mean? So those things that you don't see. So the things that drive people away, you don't see, right? Or that people don't take you seriously. You know, so I had another one I figured out was in Japan. I would be at a business meeting and I would present, and then nobody took me seriously. And I was like, why is nobody taking me seriously? Like, I thought it must be because I'm a foreigner, you know, because sometimes they were, you know, very against foreigners, right? And so I was thinking it must be that, you know. And then I was talking to my friend, and I talked to everybody. Nobody got it. And then one day I was watching Japanese people talk. I was just watching them, and I was like, Japanese men don't smile when they're talking. And then I started asking, I said, you know, I asked, you know, do you take me seriously? And they were like, I like you, but not really seriously, you know. And then, yeah, because I smile too much, you know. And so you see, in California, you can smile all you want, right? But in Japan, if you smile, then they don't take you seriously in business, right? Women smile, but guys don't smile. They're They just kind of like, it's a bit of that, maybe it's a nervousness or whatever. Maybe it's a similar type thing. But anyway, in Japan. And so once I realized that, I realized I didn't speak Japanese yet because I had to go look in the mirror and then watch myself not smile and then learn how to present. And then what it was is I kind of realized as I did it, it sounds like just some dumb thing, but as I did it, I realized that it was the same kind of thing. It was a nervousness. It was like, I have good ideas. I'm presenting these ideas to you. Do you fucking care or not? You know what I mean? Like, they're there, and is this group care? You know what I mean? Like, because I don't have time if it's not, And that's the way, that was the new attitude. Like, I'm going to go in and present. And like, I killed it in sales after that in Japan. And also in any kind of serious situation, I knew how to control my face.
So there's when we talk, there's always a nervous tick that we say, like,
yeah,
I always remember people who always talk. You ever heard people?
Right. So that kind of thing, that would be the kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a nervous tick.
And behind that is some kind of nervousness. Right, like they're not serious about what they're saying.
There's a nervous tick that everybody, when you listen to their speech.
Right.
That you can pick up on that.
Right, and so that's the thing is, like, for me, like, I wanted to get rid of those because that's, like when I was young, I remember, like, men did not act like I did,
But they don't know that they do that.
And so younger guys learn these things from themselves. And it's kind of a hard lesson because
you have to watch yourself.
It's hard to watch yourself, and it's also kind of hard to figure it out. Like, it took me a while they don't smile in, like I was like, it just took me forever. I was just trying to, again, like not sleeping. I was just like, I'm just going to figure this out because I hated the fact that I wasn't being taken serious in meetings because I was coming up with great ideas. I knew it because partly because I'm an outsider, so I could see things differently. And also I could say things that some Japanese couldn't say, right? And so I was kind of allowed to as a foreigner. And they wanted that, actually. They wanted an outside opinion. And so they wanted me to do it, seriously. But they wanted me to do it in a way that they would take, that it could be implemented. That the older guys at the company could be like, all right, Paul-san, let's go. That's a good idea. Let's get a team and let's do that, So, that was kind of like, that was one of my last ones. Or I haven't thought about this for years, but maybe I still have some. I might still have something like that. So it's just kind of like knocking those subconscious value losing things, And I just kind of sense that you lost a lot of those without even thinking about it, So there's two ways to lose them. One is just to be in a totally different mindset and then just not do them anymore. But the danger with that is they can come back, right? So it is kind of good to know yourself and what are those things you do, right? And then you can kind of, as they come back, you're like, yeah, and you can kind of improve those, I know when I was a little kid, I used to move a lot, right? Because my dad, we didn't have so stable situations, so we'd move. And then I would get to a new situation, I would lie. We'd tell some lie. And then what happened was, you do that for, at different places and you start to, and nobody knows you, right? And so you can get really lost when you're doing that, right? So for me, especially when I was young, man, it was very important for me not to lie, even about anything, just some small exaggeration, just to make sure I told the story the way it was, or whatever it is that I'm talking about, right? So, that was one of my struggles, is just to be, like a man that is trusted because he's saying things that are trustworthy, right? And he knows it, and then other people also know it, right? So those are the kind of things I can kind of see. I don't know if this is the road, but I can kind of feel those are the kind of issues you're talking about there, And then that's cool. I definitely dealt with that, and I want to say, like, I exactly what Connor said. I feel like nothing that was learned here was talked about, so that's very unusual. That's very interesting. I noticed the same thing. I was thinking, I didn't talk about that. I was like, who talked to but it was I think that's the way you learn. It's like another, that was kind of amazing. I'll think about that later. But anyway, thanks you guys, and thanks for listening. Yeah. All right. That's it. All right. Yeah. I'll post a picture of where we are. It's a beautiful place. All right.
We're
see
in
you.
jail.
We're actually in this abandoned building next to a beautiful place
It's a barracks.
because there's no wind.
Barrack?
It's a barracks? Okay. All right. We're Marines. Let's charge the hill.